ladies. But I think Derek Bell's a lot better looking than Patrick Dempsey. So, I mean, what else do you want? Look at this guy. See that? Derek Bell.
I don't think I'm the best looking, but I'm certainly the oldest.
And of course, to me, one of the most memorable last laps here at Laguna Seca against this Corvette that somehow got in the way of us winning this race, Joerg Bergmeister. And part of the 919 Le Mans team, one of the young guns, Earl Bamber. Remember his name, you're going to hear a lot more of it in the future. All right, gentlemen, I'm going to open it up, I guess, to question and answer, and maybe we can start off with what are you driving this weekend? Have you driven this weekend? Maybe you can tell us a little bit about it.
I spent a lot of time in a bus driving back and forth to Monterey, but thank God I didn't have to drive. However, I did yesterday drive the Jules number 11 Le Mans winning car from 1981. Of course, you weren't even born there, you young bugger. Unbelievable, isn't it? I was racing in his country with Chris Amon and Ferrari, and I bet his parents weren't born. Yeah. Anyway, it's great to see these young guys doing so well. It makes me realise how bloody old I am, especially when they walk straight by me. But anyway, I've got to know him now. I know him because he's so tall. It's like, oh, there's Stuck. Oh no, isn't it young Stuck? Sorry, where was I? Yeah, so I drove the Jules car yesterday. Very slowly, unfortunately, because we weren't allowed to do more than 40 miles an hour. And it's not quite the same, but it's still beautiful to be associated with a car that meant so much to me, because it was my first Porsche win at Le Mans. And this afternoon, I believe I'm going to drive the LMP2 car, unless they change their minds, which they're inclined to do. But I suppose you're driving it, are you? You should drive the Jules car, or the 962. But no, it's great that we can all drive different cars, and I think these young guys should drive something that we used to race, as long as we'll be allowed to go fairly quickly to get some of the feel of them, you know. But it's lovely to be here.
Super. Joerg, what have you been driving?
I have the pleasure to drive one of my old cars, the 2006 Peter's White Lightning RSR in race 6. And later on the parade laps I get to drive the Großmotor, the 718. First time for me, I just drove it around the paddock a little bit. It's pretty impressive, so I look forward to it.
So you're actually in a race group. Is that intimidating to the other drivers that you're Bergmeister, or are they trying to prove something?
No, I don't think so. I'm just trying to have some fun with my old baby, and that's pretty much it.
Earl, what are you driving?
This weekend I've been quite busy. I drove the 911 RSR, the current car we drive in the United Sports Car Championship. And then I also get to jump back in the LMP1 car this morning for a few laps, and then at lunchtime as well for some more demonstration laps. So it's my first time driving the car since I did my last stint at Le Mans, so that's quite special. And then I had the chance to do a few laps in the GT1 just slowly at 60 Ks and in the parade laps this afternoon. And for me it's quite a special car to drive that, because it's the last car to win Le Mans before we did. And when that car won Le Mans, I started go-karts. I was 7 years old, so it's really cool to drive what we drive today, and then what they used to drive then. So it's cool.
How old are you?
25. Yeah, just turned 25.
I thought we had lines.
I got grey hair already though.
So I guess, Earl, this is your first Rennsport reunion?
It's actually my second. I did the one in Australia in 2013. I was actually racing a cup car. It was my first ever year driving Porsches. So, but this is my first one in the US, and it's fantastic to see, you know, everything out here, to see the heritage of Porsche and all these old cars. I've been really pushing that I want to drive a 962 and race it. Kept prodding, but I'm not allowed this weekend. So, but it's really, really cool, and I'm looking forward to the next one in the future.
Joerg, is there a car here that you would love to drive that you haven't been asked to yet?
All of them. I mean, there's so many really cool cars, and it's always a pleasure to step in and get to drive one of the old cars. It's definitely a privilege, and yeah, I look forward to driving many more of those.
Derek, do you want to try the 919?
We've discussed it, and but often you get discussion at Porsche. But no, in fact, Mark Webber said to me at breakfast 2 days ago. He said, "You haven't driven a 919," and I said, "No." And he said, "We really should get you in one." I think, I'm so lucky. I drove the 917s back in the heyday, and then the 936s, the 935s, the 962s. And also the GT1 car. I haven't raced it, but I have competed in it. I've not competed, but they look good with this stuff. So, I just love to. And there's no reason I can't drive it. I won't be quick, but at least, it'd be great to get that experience.
I've got to say, I told this story to Derek before, but everyone that knows me knows that I named my firstborn after Derek Bell. What an unusual name, and I thought, Derek, not a lot of kids in school were named Derek, and my wife liked it too because her mother's maiden name was Bell, and I said, well, that's kind of a little creepy when you say Derek Bell. The Derek part was fine. So years later, we're in Germany, and we run into Derek at an event, and my wife walks up and says, I have a son named after you. And he didn't even flinch. He said, "Madam, I've never met you before." And then, no lie, 2 minutes later, he had his arm around my wife. I said, "Oh my God, he's still playing after all these years."
Well, we were never sure. But we used to have good times, I must admit. I hope these guys have lots of fun too. But yeah, I'm sure you do. We did have a lot of laughs in situations like that. Fantastic, aren't we?
So let's open up the question and answer. You got 3 heroes here of Motorsport. Anybody have any questions they'd like to ask these guys?
Derek, this question's for you. What was the biggest step change in the cars that you drove? 17, 956, 962, 936. What was the biggest step change in performance?
Well, I mean, the biggest really was, it all came moderately gradually, but suddenly when ground effect came in, it became very tricky. And initially, I mean, we'd all gone through the stages of development with the 935s, which, getting them in, they had 700 plus horsepower, and obviously, solid rear axle made them quite tricky, but exciting to drive if you made sure, told the car that you were going to win and the car wasn't. And, by degrees, we then got into ground effect, which made them just smoother. And have you driven one at speed? Yeah? No. But when you do, you'll be staggered. I mean, they're so smooth and easy to drive. And, because you've got the torque, they're very, very nice to drive. So, but I think probably getting ground effect was quite a major difference. I mean, PDK and ABS were just natural developments,
One of the things we talked with some of the other Le Mans 919 drivers was about the steering wheel. Earl, do you remember how big the manual was to learn the steering wheel?
Sorry. Yeah, it was. It's very big. I think it's like 35 pages long, and we have to learn each little bit. And I remember actually the final brief before Le Mans, they said to us, the only thing you need to know is everything in that booklet. And for me, I was doing the race, and it's got part about pit boards, and we were like 3rd or something, and I forget exactly the position. But I was watching the board, and it was ticking over, and we had the gap there. And I was like going 20s and 19s, and the gap was still getting bigger and bigger to the car. Geez, how fast do you have to go? Maybe they're doing 17s or something, so you're pushing harder and harder and harder. And then after a while, I realized that it's actually I went the wrong way. I didn't read the manual where the gap was, and I was actually pulling away and not losing time. So I had to tell them about that story, and they weren't too impressed. But the manual's big. The manual's very big. And when you first start driving, it's like texting. We get calls to put a number and then, a letter and then a number. And then when you're doing 350 to look down and then push the letter, then the number, and then push OK, it's quite difficult in the beginning. But when we first test it, they test us whether we can actually do this because it's quite an important part. Otherwise, you can't drive it.
So if you get pulled over on the highway for texting, you can tell the officer that you've been trained to do this.
I could actually. I haven't been pulled over yet for texting and driving, but it's a good skill I have.
I think they told us the new 911, you could do 192 miles an hour in be connected to Facebook. Theoretically, update your status while you're doing 192, which was a little bit scary.
We didn't develop that.
Questions?
What is each of your guys' favorite racetracks?
For me, my favorite racetrack is Macau. It's a street track through the hills. It's very, very tight and narrow, and it mixes a huge amount of high-speed corners with some very slow corners, and the wall's right next to you. It's the only track you feel like you might crash 3 or 4 times a lap. So it's good.
For me, the Nürburgring Nordschleife, and over here in the States, Alpine Lake for sure.
Same for me as you. I didn't know about Macau, but and I love Spa. I raced on the original Spa as well, which was pretty spectacular. But I think Spa even today is about the only track in the world they have with ruins, with modern sort of clinical corners. Fun? They try hard, but it's still a fantastic track, I think.
We just had the director of the LMP project up here, and telling us how they've reduced to, I think, 45 engineers at the race. Derek, how many engineers did you have when you raced 917s?
Probably quite a lot, but I certainly weren't 45. I mean, probably 5 or 6. Well, we didn't have anything to do. We just had a rev counter and an oil pressure gauge, and we didn't have water temperature because we didn't have water. And so we just sort of stirred along with the old fan going around. But no, we didn't have many. I mean, most of them are here anyway. Still here working on the museum cars.
Questions?
For the three of you, how do you account for the young drivers being so successful at the highest levels of motorsport?
I'll start. I didn't start till I was 23, so that writes me off of the whole story anyway. But obviously in my day we had karting, but you had to live in a specific area to get karting. I don't think it really existed in America back then. And you got into racing because you had a passion for it, and you would marshal at the local motor club, and you get close to the cars, and you gradually move on. And in my case, bought a Lotus 7 with a friend, and we went racing. And you gradually got going. But in 4 years, I was at Ferrari, so I guess I didn't do too badly. But we didn't have any way to start. So my first sort of real big race was when I was 27. And to see these young guys today, it's great. The only thing that worries me a bit is I hope they really still have a life around their racing, because we had a great life. You didn't start till 23, you were doing all sorts of other things. Playing rugby, playing sports for your local clubs, college and everything, and it worries me a bit. And I honestly don't know your history, so I'm not saying anything against you, but I'm just worried that they have got, I'm really not saying anything against you, because I really don't know. But I read about the likes of, Hamilton and people like that, and you go, they haven't had a life. I mean, I know they're living with different models and singers and screwing everything that walks, but we all did that, but we did lots of it, without it being on the front page of the newspapers. But I just feel that I hope the boys, the younger lads, don't miss out on the sort of fun we had, and I don't mean the sexual side, I mean just life, and don't become too boring as they get older, and that when they stand up, like he obviously can do, and will do in the future, because he listened to what I said, and he'll be very, very able to talk to any audience about anything and have a laugh, and that's the most important thing, but above all to enjoy it.
We still have fun, a lot, but I think, to be honest, I'm still, actually me and Nick were talking, we're out of time period a little bit as drivers, because we still have a lot of fun, it's good, but as a young driver growing up, I think it's a little bit more commercialized. People are starting at 7 with go-karts and then trying to move their way through. I mean, for me, I'm a little bit strange, because I had a gap in my career where I didn't drive for 3 years actually. I was doing single-seaters all the way up to GB2 level. And then I stopped and didn't race anything for 3 years. I was working as a driving instructor, picking up cones on the track, trying to fight my way back into a race seat. And then in 2013, I got in a cup car. And then within 2 years, I was driving an LMP1 car again. So, you know, for me, I've also seen the other side of non-racing. And I think the most important is that you do enjoy it and that you don't take it, we need to take it seriously, but there's too many young kids that are just fully focused on racing, and it's actually not healthy. They overthink it, and then they're actually not driving to their full potential. And then also you see them, sometimes they're really talented drivers, but then they get to 17 or 18 and they give up because, you know, that's just too much for them. It's the only thing they've ever done in life. So, you know, I think you need to have a balance. You know, you need to enjoy your racing, but then you also need to be doing other things outside of motorsport. So, you know, it's a difficult time because there's lots of young kids, and I'm sure there's a few hundred behind us right now that want our seats. You know, so we have to keep pushing, but you know, it's a great time for motor racing. And also the big discussion at the moment is paid drivers. This is also a big discussion in Formula One. I think it's a little bit sad at the moment that there's so many guys that pay money to get into Formula One, but unfortunately it's part of it. It costs money to run a race car, it always has done, so you also have to be very marketable for the sponsors to want to sponsor you, so you can get the seat as well on the other side. So it's a give and take, but you know, it's very nice in what we do with LMP1 and GT racing because you have really the best drivers in the world, and I think it's a testament to Porsche to give someone like myself a chance because, you know, you can just try your best and drive this as fast as you can, and you get opportunities to drive at Milan and stuff like that. So it's really neat that they do that. It's very rare a manufacturer does that.
Not much more to add, I think.
You don't have any stories yet.
I always have stories, but
You can tell that there's a different story.
no, it's all good. As you said, we are having lots of fun even nowadays. Maybe not as crazy as you guys back then, but we're having fun. Talking about the young kids, I can see right now pretty well. My nephew is turned 10 now. He's already a go-kart factory driver. So
You should tell them about the go-kart you made.
what go-kart?
It's more senses than LMP1 car.
Oh, that's my brother. My brother's a racer himself, so what he does with his son is actually pretty spectacular. He started go-karting when he was 2.5, and his go-kart has a full-on Motec system, same like we use in the race kart, with a video analysis and everything on there. So he's actually teaching his son really well on how to handle the go-kart, and actually this weekend he won his first race in a big in a big German race. So the next generation for us, and as Earl said, definitely there's a fine line between doing too much for a kid like that, because they are still kids. At 10 years he's doing 22 races and should have and luckily is having a lot of fun around racing as well.
I'd just like to say something. You're, in my opinion, you should have gone a lot further. No, I think. Oh well, I know you're happy, but to me, you're in that group, and you probably say, shit, I wasn't. But there was Massling, and there was you, and lots of you guys, which I had great admiration for. But Porsche weren't running top-level races like they are now, and these guys were in that sort of middle bit, and you kept saying they've got to get that break sometime. And of course you had them, but I felt that you were just too late or too early. But you're still happy, aren't you?
I'm definitely very happy. I mean, for LMP I'm too tall anyway, and too fat probably. So I'm as we say, fat and happy GT driver. So no, I can't complain. It's great to make a living in racing. It's my hobby, become my profession, so I couldn't ask for more.
I love that.
Joerg, it always seemed like you are like a master of the last few laps. When it comes time, and this year you proved it again. Because I told my wife we were watching, I said he's going to do it. And I think it was for third or second place you were fighting for, but you
second
place, and it was an incredible. The camera wasn't even focused on first place. It was that battle for second. You got to tell the story.
Earl wants to tell the story.
So, I've watched a lot of Joerg's races and seen what happened here at Laguna Seca with Magnussen. And we were really battling and we really wanted to grab second place, and There was always talking on the timing, staying backwards and forth, and I said, I know what he's going to do. He was looking in the last corner all the time, and then he goes on the radio, he goes, what's the gap? And the engineer goes, now why does he need the gap? The car's right in front. I said, he wants the gap behind. He goes, why does he want the gap behind? What does that matter? I said, I know what he wants to do, just tell him it's 45 seconds and it'll be fine. And they go, why? What's he going to do? I don't understand what he's going to do. And then